All right. Well, today we're going to have in John Shave. He's the owner of Stack Mobile. I guess probably owner, CEO. Who knows what other major titles you have for yourself? And we're just going to discuss Stack Mobile. If you guys don't know who Stack Mobile is, they came into the Litecoin Summit. I think they kind of took took it by storm. If you ask me, the energy you guys had was awesome. John, we got to meet him, and I was just telling him, Animal and I've mentioned this story to people in our spaces, but we met for the first time in person at the summit, and in our conversations, one of them was with John that just said to me, like, this is a good angle to understand these crypto businesses and how businesses are taking advantage of crypto, because I think the more that people hear the reasons why crypto is valuable to other businesses, they'll hopefully incorporate it to their business as well. So, John, thank you for coming in. Um, do you want to? I think maybe a good first thing is just to briefly explain uh, the nuts and bolts of Stack Mobile and what you guys have going on with Litecoin.
Well, thanks for inviting me on today, fellas. My background is telecommunications and technology, and I came up with the concept about 4.5 years ago, and which is where the impetus of the thought was that if I can correlate data consumption with cryptocurrency rewards, there could be a play there. And so, and I kicked around the idea of issuing my own crypto, and then I kind of got, sidelined on that. And then the markets cooled down in cryptocurrency, kind of went into that cold time. And then with the markets jamming back, I blew the dust off the folder in January. I said, this is the time to do it. So I went ahead and did some quick research, made some phone calls, talked to people, and the Litecoin Foundation was really solid in guiding me. And they're like, "Hey, it's a great idea. Why don't you issue Litecoin as a reward?" And I said, "Wow, it's a pretty good idea. Thank you." So next thing you know, that was the genesis of the current form, and it really comes down to that. If you think about like mining cryptocurrency, it requires energy and processing. And if you think about when we're communicating on our mobile devices, is we're consuming data. So in a weird kind of way, if you talk on your phone and you use data, you're kind of like a miner. So
Right.
I'm like, all right, so if you're going to consume data, let's issue cryptocurrency as reward for consuming data. So that's sort of like how this started from an idea standpoint. The way to go about that, it's not, it always sounds easier than it is, right? But there's quite a bit that goes into what we're doing. So Stack Mobile, the name comes from stack your crypto rewards. So that's the genesis of the name. And then the second part of the vision is you've got to provide good phone service, because it's not just a reward play. I mean, we have to be really good at have a 5G network that's large and fast. We have to be able to provide low touch, high quality customer service. And everyone's got to keep their number if they want, or we'll issue a new number. And if you want to keep your device, or we'll issue a new device. So we have to be really good at being the mobile carrier. And then the Litecoin aspect of it just really makes sense. The first time I purchased Litecoin was actually 2013 when I met Charlie Lee when he was at Coinbase. That's kind of another story, another project that I implemented Bitcoin into a mobile payment platform that we created. So it's always been in the back of my mind, Litecoin. So that's kind of how we started, the idea and where it came from, and then putting the numbers on into a financial model and selecting vendors, and next thing you know, we're going to be turning up customers here at the end of September, or right around the first of October. But we're screaming to be turning up our live customers, so we're excited about that.
So what is it that cryptocurrency in general? I like what you're saying, kind of about like a proof of work or a proof of engagement as a rewards process. What is it about crypto that kind of what does it unlock for you or enable you to do that you couldn't do more conventionally?
Well, there's a couple thoughts that come to mind. First of all, reward points in their current form are basically devaluing, especially um, with um, with the current environment, inflationary environment. So if you think about it, like an airline point, they're worth less and less, you know, because prices go up and the points kind of stay static. So if you believe that, if you look at traditional assets, and we'll keep it simple in this one, but you think about like a reward point, it does not go up in value over time. And if you think about, if you believe the narrative of cryptocurrency will appreciate in the long term, then to earn free cryptocurrency on your mobile phone usage is totally logical, because you can hold it or you can spend it, right?
Hmm.
And so that just makes sense to me. So the crypto piece, the other aspect of it is, you can do more with it, right? You've got control now of your reward, which is your currency,
Right.
which
It's
makes
real
sense
money.
because
Yeah, yeah, it's real
you
money.
can't really do much, right? With your other reward points, they sit in there and you get beat up when you try to use them, and it's confusing, and it just seems like kind of a pain. So why not just give the transparency of of a reward that actually is useful and can be used for anything you want, a loaf of bread or a trip to Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think you said that you can also automatically deposit the rewards, right? So it's a process that could be automated, go straight to your wallet.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great point. So there's a couple parts of the equation here that have to work right. And the first is, again, the singles and doubles of onboarding a consumer client or a business client, and we're putting some neat technologies in place around that, and some AI intelligence to really improve that entire experience. But the crypto reward piece is pretty interesting. So in the example of a client, like, for example, my bill's $400 a month. And so I would pay my invoice, and then and that triggers an identifying number, a percentage. So I've got four lines because I have, for my children, and so I get 15% back. So when that invoice is paid, it triggers the number, and then that information is sent through an API link over to BitPay, and then they acquire the Litecoin, and it's transparent, and it's delivered immediately to the connected digital wallet. So how that works? So for, hypothetically, if I have a Coinbase account and I link, you sign up for our service, right? You get an email, you open the email, and you link your Coinbase account to our Treasury account, our Treasury commercial digital wallet. And you may have to show your ID, right? One time, know your customer. Everyone's got to play that game. And then you're linked for good. So the process is really frictionless. It's not painful. It's quick, and then you're off to the races. And every time you pay, you're in free crypto.
I'm assuming you have to. I mean, the funny thing about some of this KYC stuff is it's not like uh, I wouldn't have to. You wouldn't have to know who I was to use your cell phone service, right? So it's kind of already. There's no real loss. I mean, you know, what I mean, sometimes people get worried about it if something's KYC, but the reality is you have to know who someone is so they pay their bill, right? Um,
Right.
so,
It,
but
it,
you can also send it to a BitPay wallet, right? Or if you
correct.
had like a light wallet, it's pretty. It's not discriminating about where you're sending it, correct?
We just need your wallet address, and I just use that
Yeah.
example because BitPay is a non-custodial wallet, and which means that you're responsible for your um, passwords and
Yeah, yeah, your
your
keys, yeah.
secure phrase. Right, right. So I just use the other example, but we can link to you know hundreds and hundreds of wallets. I mean, pretty much any wallet we can link to. It's just
You just need,
BitPay is just the immediate. It's just a connecting point to get you your crypto, and then from there you're off to the races and do whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah, I was, it's funny you were mentioning the points versus money. I'm not as old school as you, 2013, but I was 2016 is when I first started kind of getting into this, and the whole ICO craze came in 2017. And I thought the most logical place for like rewards points to go is for them to issue their own coin, even, right? Because if I can, earn airline miles, but I don't really like to fly that much, it'd be nice to be able to just go into a market and sell them, and get it into something that I can actually use. So I always expected that to be the first place where like Burger King and Taco Bell were issuing their own tokens just to like, you know, uh, make them interchangeable. It gives them a lot more utility and like timeshare points, that type of stuff where they don't have a real market value because there's a ton of friction to getting those points. And I always thought that would be something that would come to pass. Maybe that's the next idea for you, John. Just do timeshares and use crypto.
I thought a lot about it, going back to the whole ICO craze and that whole thing. And I think some of the challenges there is liquidity. And I think some of the bigger companies, especially the public ones, they get nervous on that, in issuing their own tokens and value, and and perceived value. It does seem logical, right? That if you were, but then again, I mean, what do you call it? The burger coin? Then you
Yeah,
got a Taco
well,
Bell coin. I got a taco coin. And no, I see what you're saying. No, I think it's interesting because this is real thinking, right? And I think what it comes down to is, from our standpoint, is you know mobile phone service is real, and Litecoin is real, right? So they're both. It's a win-win, and it creates less headaches, to then trying to create something that implodes in value, and then people are upset with you. And you can think of like so many influencers that have tried to promote some of these ICOs, and they really got egg on their shirt. And so for the Litecoin Foundation and for Litecoin and Stack Mobile, Litecoin's real, and
Yep.
and it's fast. So I'd rather give a reward of crypto that's real, and I don't and nobody has a reason to get mad at me because it works, and it's got long term value potential. So that's kind of the thought on that. So I went through the whole cycle on the ISO and my own token and that whole thing, and I just kept coming back to, not that there's something wrong with it or other people can't make it successful. I just felt this was a safer bet.
yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Well,
Litecoin's eternal, right? And that's the thing. It's not going to go anywhere. Unlike 99% of the ICOs that came and went in the last 4 years.
Totally. Yeah. So it's just interesting, right? And people are excited about. It's interesting. Life is funny. What I tell people, I say, tell me I'm wrong on this project. Please tell me where do you see a challenge? And it's interesting because people love the concept. They love the idea. The only one legitimate objection that came up, I was playing pickleball with a woman from Seattle, and she says, I go, what do you think of the Stack Mobile? You get free, you're in free Litecoin by paying your bill. She goes, it's great but the only issue is, she said, T-Mobile's not so good up where I used to live in the Pacific Northwest. I said, well, they just acquired U.S. Cellular, so they're going to expand their network and they're going to pick up some of those rural areas. So, but that was the only objection, and that's totally fair. Because you can look at AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile. There are some really, really interesting things coming down the pike, guys, that I find extremely fascinating. And one of them is this discussion with Elon Musk and Starlink and the T-Mobile network. And so this is the thing that about mobility, which is interesting, is we have been stuck in the dark ages in mobility in this country. I mean, when I say dark ages, it's the dark ages. There's very few applications you can run on your mobile. I mean, now I'm not talking about the Google Play Store or the iPhone apps, but the actual mobility network is. Think about it this way. Okay, I'll give you an example. So I used to own a telecommunications network based out of Chicago, And I was one of the first internet service providers in the US in 96. And we would start to sell internet T1s into businesses for about $2,600 a month. Now you can buy a gig for $50. And then all of a sudden, Level 3 started laying out this nationwide broadband network of fiber optic. Around 2000, the gates opened, and then you have data centers, you got software as a service, servers, you've got innovation, Amazon, it goes on and on and on and on and on. And so if you think back to that date, around 2000-ish, and how the world fundamentally changed with broadband, now we're moving into the next realm. And that's sort of also where the forward thinking comes in with Stack Mobile. So when we deployed our network and our platform, we invested in the latest and greatest technologies you can deploy today. And that will allow us to provide some innovative applications and streaming services and things like that as we start to move the company, forward, going ahead next year and forward on. So how you interact with your mobile device is going to be very different in 5 years than it is today. It's not just going to be more apps on the phone. Because the wireless networks are starting to realize that there's price compression. I mean, every time you turn on any kind of medium, you're like, everyone's trying to give you this free, give you that free, this free talk, 3 minutes free, this free, this free, this. So the carriers are the carriers are trying to keep these the prices. They're trying to buoy the prices, and they can only do that for so long. So what the reality that I think they're facing is they have to open up their networks to companies like Stack Mobile and others to be able to provide more innovative solutions to maintain the capacity, excess capacity they have on their mobility networks. So think about it in terms of like that.
Is there cost, like, because we talked about this a little bit. I don't know if you remember that conversation. We were kind of trying to understand how you acquire a certain part of the signal or whatever it is at T-Mobile. When T-Mobile puts up or if a tower exists, right? I'm assuming there's various companies that are able to use those towers, and there's a certain amount of data and bandwidth that each tower can handle. Is there a cost per, I don't know, we'll call it like gigabyte of data that they're trying to say, if I have X amount, I've got to sell it. My best thing is to have those towers as completely jam-packed as possible. Is it kind of like there's a flat cost and it's like you want to get as many users as possible, but it doesn't like scale up or down based on the amount of data flowing through those towers?
Yeah, I mean, so the question is, the first part is, think of it this way, right? So if you look at a mobility wireless carrier, an MNO we call them, like for example, like an AT&T and Verizon or T-Mobile. So they own the spectrum, right? And they own the antennas that are on the towers. Because a lot of the towers are owned by a third party, like Crown Castle is one of them. Because the carriers really don't want to own the real estate, and they don't want to own the towers. They just want their antenna up there, right? Because they're really not in the real estate business.
Okay.
So to answer your question on the capacity issue, so I know that in the example of like a T-Mobile, there's a percentage of their network that is available to companies like mine. So we negotiate and we go into an agreement with them, but it's not like we're the last guy in line to get the bandwidth. I mean, we've got guaranteed throughput on the mobility network, so we can provide unlimited data plans. We can provide lower data plans. We've got exactly the exact same access that everybody else has on that particular network, if you're a direct customer or if you're a Stack Mobile customer. But I think they just make a decision that they've got some extra capacity, and they're gonna have companies like mine leverage their network. And then I pay per gigabyte. There's also, most people don't realize this, but in the mobility networks, there are minute costs that are absorbed. They're small, but there are, because when you take a phone call and you hand a phone call over from AT&T to Verizon, there's a cost in between that, besides the cost to acquire the spectrum and the towers. There's actually handoffs at data centers, and it's fractions and fractions of pennies. But there is a true cost in there, and there's companies that's all they do for a living is they basically they're like almost like a meet me room, but they're really servers that hand phone calls off.
Hmm.
So, but you get with Stack Mobile, you get the fastest 5G network, and our pricing is great too. So when I say we're going to give 15% of Litecoin rewards, we're not raising the prices 15% to give you 15%. I mean, we're going to go toe to toe with anybody on a competitive and transparent pricing, because you can't just you got to show up to the party on equal footing. And then that's
Right.
where we roll our sleeves up and we give the crypto rewards. And we think we have better efficiencies with the latest technologies that we can afford to do that. And then the other cool thing about it is we're providing fiat currency to cryptocurrency offloading, right? So think about, like, in my example, I'll get $750 in free Litecoin a year. That's pretty compelling. Now, one could argue a family of four, if they took $7,500 in Litecoin over the course of 10 years, right? Let's say their kids are, let's say, you accumulate 7,500, 750 bucks per month for even 8 years. And then you would say, I'm going to use that for my kids' at college education. Because some
Right.
people may not be ready to buy cryptocurrency. They want it. They want to get in the game. They just, they don't want to spend that $750. So we're like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to. Just switch phone services to us. Keep your phone number, and we'll get you turned on, and we'll fire you up with free Litecoin. And if you believe some of these interviews, like with Michael Saylor and others, I mean, when you look at the value of cryptocurrency in the future and the value of your dollar, it's an absolute no-brainer to not. I mean, holding cash is the worst thing you can do on the planet. It
Right.
evaporates.
Well, it's even just engaging with it, like you said, on a fairly passive level, right? The reason I was asking about the bandwidth part is I was kind of interested in. It almost felt like Animal. We were talking about drive chains last week. Like the goal is we have a limited amount of bandwidth, or whatever that is, that fixed cost, and how do we maximize our user base, right? If I'm T-Mobile or I'm AT&T, and so finding, like you said, companies that are trying to be innovative and aggressive and acquire customers, that's that's it's very interesting to them, right? Because they're probably, like you said, they're a little probably running out of ideas at some point, so they want the
Totally.
innovation, right? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I don't know if you both would remember this, but back in like the early 2000s, or even late 90s, Verizon had an app store, not an app store, but they had apps on the phone, and they were
Mhm.
horrendous. And they just, like, you buy movie tickets or something. It's just, I mean, this is pre-Apple, and
Mhm.
it was just like, big giant phone companies aren't known for innovation. That's
Right.
kind of the fact, right? They provide the
They're like
plumbing.
a utility. They're basically a utility, right? They don't
Yeah,
have
they
time.
provide the plumbing, right? Yeah, they're a
And
utility.
I want to ask you about your point of sale interface to that goal, right? You're innovating, and I believe that you're not going to have storefronts, right?
Correct. Correct.
So
So
everything will
how do
be
we
done through a
sell?
website. Yeah.
Yeah, so how do we sell? That's a great question. So thanks for asking that. Yeah, we forgot about the important thing. How are we going to sell those customers? No, it's really good. So we work with strategics, like the Litecoin Foundation is a strategic, BitPay is a strategic. There's others we're working with, and so we'll promote Stack Mobile through that ecosystem, and the consumer can easily sign up online when we launch our site. All the technology is already built, so it's really easy. You put your name in, put your phone number in, we port your number. That all happens very quickly. So you're not out of phone service for a day or anything like that. It's really all automated. And then your billing is through Stack Mobile and your service and support. The other way we're doing this is we work through influencers and we work through affiliates. So an affiliate that pushes us to their community, we have an affiliate platform we use that we'll be able to track and pay. And the other way we're doing this too is I'm launching a multi-level marketing program for consumers. And we're gonna do part of this. We're gonna test part of this at a major university called the Ohio State University in Columbus. And what we're gonna do there is we're gonna pick a couple aggressive, hungry interns, and we're gonna start promoting Stack Mobile to the college campus environment. And what I tell people, they say, what are you doing, Shave? I said, well, I want to be the Red Bull of mobility and cryptocurrency rewards.
Hmm.
Motorcycles and rock
Yeah.
concerts. Let's go.
No, it's
Right
smart,
on.
man. Because like it's like because Animal, like we were talking about it. And he's like, yeah, I'll sign up right away, and I'll be straightforward with you as far as the friction of me as a guy with a family. I got a cell phone for my daughter and my wife, but it's tied in with our cable, right? So like there's a lot more friction for me to change than someone who's single and young and they're all about crypto. And so that's definitely your your target, right? But
Right.
but I just went and signed up for the mailing list here. It took all of about 3 seconds. Just so if anybody's curious, you just type your name, email address, and phone number, right?
Yeah, you go to www.stackmobile.com. You get $25 in free Litecoin when you go live. So we keep that list. We'll keep you in the loop on it. And we call it an early bird list. And people are signing up. They like it. So I think it's interesting. Yeah, when we talk about friction, what's also interesting is we're reaching, it seems like, another one of those points in innovation of mobile devices where they just kept pumping out new ones and new ones and new ones. And I've got this iPhone 14, which is fine. And I just had it replaced. I dropped my last one. I was on my jet ski and I dropped it in the
Did it have all your crypto on it? The whole
You
boating
lost it?
accident? Is that what you're pulling out?
yeah.
You know the
Yeah,
meme?
exactly. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? People, a lot of the crypto community, they have separate phones just for their crypto. There's a whole deal around security and all that. And, it's interesting,
Absolutely.
but when it comes to the mobile piece, I mean, the phones, I mean, more and more people, it just seems like when you talk to people, they're really not racing to buy the brand new phones all the time now. They just reach the point of hey, this thing it's pretty powerful and covers the bases. But getting your family together to switch, because I've tried to switch off. I'm on AT&T right now, and I can't wait to switch off. And the service is really bad. The connectivity is bad. The service is bad, and it's really just. But getting 4 people to move, off, and and one's got to pay in their phone off still, and this one and the other, but. So that'll be one little friction point that we'll start to make it exciting. I don't know. I'm pretty impulsive. Heck, maybe I'll give you 20% if you switch, if you got 4 lines. Who knows? Don't tell my CFO that.
I think you're right, because I got one of the minis. I'm like trying to be old school. But my wife had an iPhone 6 for like a decade. She was like, I don't know, it works. Why would I change my phone? So the big difference between you and like an AT&T, if AT&T does here's a free phone, that entices a certain amount of people. But you're right. For the most part, people are like, look, I'm happy with my phone. I don't need to upgrade. I don't care about the cameras that much. I just want to have the cheapest service with good quality data. That's all. I mean, it's what people use them for, right? So yeah, that's kind of to your point. We're moving past the giveaway free phones because the free phone ain't all that exciting anymore.
And that's interesting too, right? Because the carriers have turned into like equipment providers, because they can't innovate and they're so slow. The other interesting thing too is we provide connectivity for IoT and Apple Watches and any other device too. So we're not just stopping at a mobile device for a consumer. And we have a commercial side of the business that we understand pretty well. So any vehicle that's got a SIM card in it, any truck that's being tracked, any asset that's being tracked, those guys are clients too for us too. So we don't just stop at consumer, because we understand that business we kind of grew out of, and kind of cut our teeth in. So we do both the consumer and the business. So if you're a business owner, I'll give you an example. Here's a good example. So there's a client. He's got 1,000. The guy I know that's got 1,000 nurses in the field. They do home health care, and his bill is $75K a month. Okay, because it's about $75 a tablet. And so when we go live, I'm going to bring that group over. And so what's the math on that? That's 75. That's okay. So
10,000 a month, something like that. So what's
75
half of 7.5?
times
3.75. 11 and a quarter, right?
75 times 12 is 900K. That's his bill. Oh, no, that's not right. No, 75. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
75K.
That's right.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
annually, yes.
Yeah. Times 12. Yeah. Okay. So do take that times 0.15. That's $135,000.
Right. That's an employee.
That's an owner. That's like
That's
giving that dude $135,000 in Litecoin. That's some serious cake.
So yeah, well, that's I mentioned that before you came on. Animal, I was telling him, I'm like, you see so many like business owners who are small companies, and they use their company credit card for all this. They compile airline miles and they use it for travel or hotel rewards or whatever. Or like I'm in my job, I can expense things, but I can join these hotel programs when I do stay, and then personally I can use those points. Do you think that's a big arena that you'll see adoption?
Um, that's interesting, right? So the question is, will an employee, will an
Or even
employee,
an employer, right? So a guy like my dad has a small business. He might pay 6 cell phone bills and just see that as a way of, yeah, getting
yeah,
something
that's a
back,
good
right?
idea. You can do a couple things, right? With our platform, you can actually, you can, you can, um, you can donate your reward to, I think there's
Okay.
8 charities on BitPay, 8 or
Okay.
10, American Cancer Society and a few others. Or, so that question would be, that's a good thought though. So if you're an employer and you got this $135,000 in Litecoin, you can actually redistribute that. Um, and then I know in the BitPay platform, they've got crypto reward cards. I think that it's going
Okay.
live again. They took it off for a little bit because they're upgrading it. So you'll be able to, use it. I mean, there's many merchants. There are like all the big names we know. So that's utility. So now by switching to Stack Mobile, it's a good idea. I'm gonna have to hire you guys, bring you guys in as my marketing team. I'm learning something.
Well, yeah, yeah. I've even seen a lot where it'll be, hey, we have an annual Christmas party, and they'll get rewards and kickbacks from different suppliers. Hey, give us a rebate every year, and they use the rebates and whatever to try to give gifts back to their employees at the Christmas party. Again, there's probably some tax legality. I don't want to give any advisement to anybody about like where that money needs to go and what kind of trackability you want to have. But yeah, I just see that as something that to be able to take these rewards and actually turn them into real goods and not be like, hey, here's a gift cards to Starbucks because that's my reward, or here's airline. I can't give airline miles to my employees, right? But I can give them these reward cards, or we can do donations for the company in the name of the company for tax rebates. So yeah, that's interesting, an interesting avenue what you're talking
It's a good
about.
idea. No, I get it because I used to throw a big holiday party for a couple hundred people at one of my companies years ago, and people look forward to it. Had good music, and it was always fun, and we had all kinds of fun stuff we would do there at that event. And then now, when you think about it, that's a really good idea, and it's easy. And it's easy to do that. It's easy
Mm-hmm.
for us to take that crypto reward and issue that reward into debit cards or reward cards, I should say, which are like a Visa basically, and you can go use them at those vendors, right? Um, so I think the partner is one of the largest they're based out of Chicago, actually. I think it is. I can't remember the name, but that's good. Yeah. So now here we go again, right? So instead of just sticking with your old AT&T, Verizon, come on over to Stack Mobile if you're a business owner. And if you don't want to hold the crypto, maybe take part of it for yourself if you're the owner, and maybe take the other percentage of it and have it chopped up into crypto um, gift cards and hand them out to people that are doing a good job. So now we just got everyone motivated at the company because they're going to get free crypto too.
Right.
I wonder if since you're going through the rewards path with crypto, if that's making your business model more feasible in this whole Operation Choke Point 2.0 environment that you have in the US. Um, I know there's what's it called? Get Hedge, right? These guys, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they were providing some kind of a payment platform where you could have your paychecks deposited to your crypto account, right? They would take the
Right.
cash
Yep.
and do the transaction on their end and then deposit it into your wallet. They were shut down because their banking was revoked, right? Their bank accounts were closed. They were debanked. And I'm wondering if you guys are avoiding this kind of regulatory overstep, right? By not transacting directly with it and with your business model and using it as a rewards platform?
That's true. That's absolutely true. I am familiar with those guys. Because remember, keep in mind what's happening, right? We are acquiring the crypto, and we're distributing it as a reward, and we're paid. Typically we're paid. We will accept crypto payments for our invoices, but the majority of them probably will come in. They'll be fiat currency, right? So and then we do the conversion there. That is interesting, though. When you think about the crypto space, even no matter what level you are, when you dive into it and learn more about it, whenever there's disruption and disintermediation, which is what you have a lot in the crypto space, right? It touches payments, it touches banking, it touches a lot of, and they get fired up and they start, winding up their
fighting back,
they start winding up their power base. And I think that's where you start to see that. And that's where there's been this kind of, I believe that there's been these oscillations and start and stops in the crypto space where you've got, market pullback because every state's different too. I don't know if you guys caught that interview with Ari Wu over at the Litecoin Foundation. She was really bright and she had a great presentation and she was talking about different states and the different regulations in each state. So it's like a mixed bag. Some state like Hawaii's not the best and New York's difficult and some others are easier with it, depending on probably the powers that be in those states, or some are better at lobbying than others, and they have deeper pockets. So that's an interesting thought, though.
When you incorporated, did you seek out a state that had more favorable regulations, or I guess had a better path?
Well, as a carrier, we have FCC approval in every state. So we, and with that, we have a presence in every state. But we don't see any issues with what we're doing. You just have to be aware of what's going on in each state. Because again, what we're doing is we're acquiring crypto and we're giving you a reward for using our service. And we don't seem to be crossing any lines there. And
you're keeping hands off. You're just letting BitPay handle all that, right?
Yeah. We're not touching any of the because there's regulation around as you know, and so we don't have to touch or worry about any of that. Just as long as you play by the rules of know your customer, and that's everyone's got to play by that rule, and that's fine, and that's it. And the rest is provide a really good phone service, and then I'm hoping that as we start to get this thing moving and grow, and we start to get our brand out there, we start to have some fun. Maybe with some events and some really cool things. I don't know. Maybe we'll have the stack game someday. We'll put you guys on some snowboards and put you in the tunnel out in Vail. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, something that was I think is kind of interesting. We were theorizing at the summit. We were like, why Litecoin? Like, to be honest with you, if you go, hey, Bitcoin's down the road, there's 20,000 people at that summit, and there's 300 to 500 at the Litecoin summit. And, this is something that I've talked a lot about in our Twitter spaces. If you don't know, I do one every week, John. So we've been talking about crypto. We get pretty in the weeds. And I've always felt that, if a business is trying to dip their toe into the crypto world, they're going to go to places like BitPay and go, okay, well, who uses crypto? Right? What are the communities that you actually have traction with? So, like, one of those, obviously, us being the top coin on BitPay is a big reason for that. But the other is that it's very accessible. So that if anybody has a Venmo or PayPal in their pocket, they can receive Litecoin. That your fees to send aren't going to be suddenly $10 that you're going to be suddenly basically taxed with an extra $10 that you got to pay every month because it's going through Bitcoin or Ethereum. And so it's kind of this I think a business term is the Goldilocks zone. I don't know if or maybe that's a technical term, but you have the accessibility, the low fees, and that everybody already has a wallet in their pocket, even if they don't even know it. If they have Venmo or PayPal, they can receive these payments and easily convert them to dollars if they wanted to, right? But is that some of the reasoning behind why you chose Litecoin versus saying I'm going for, because obviously, look, we understand Bitcoin's the big name in the room and has the most marketing heat, but was it kind of impractical to use Bitcoin?
No, we can offer actually Bitcoin too, with our product. And, but we've made the decision that, at this stage in the company that it's our strategic partnership with these guys. We like them. We want to support them. And, sometimes you gotta pick your partners, people you want to work with. And David's been cool over there, low key dude, you know, takes my
Mm-hmm.
calls at all kinds of crazy hours. Wife probably doesn't like me very much. Who's that shave guy calling again at 11:30 at night? No, she doesn't say that. I'm just
The
kidding.
energy
But
differential between you and
yeah,
David is
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
extreme.
yeah, it balances out. Yeah, it's like this. It's like a teeter totter, you know.
Yeah, it
No,
really
I'm
is.
just kidding. No, but no, I think that getting back to my original thought process, right, fellas? At the end of the day, what am I trying to do here? I'm trying to provide a quality mobile phone service at good pricing and provide utility into cryptocurrency. And you can't be all things to all people. Litecoin's fast. Litecoin's less expensive for transactions. It's widely adopted, and it's just that's sort of the deal. You can't be all things to all people, because then you're not being you know you end up not really delivering to anybody. Is what I figured in my life.
Mhm.
I've learned that, try to take off too much, and then next thing you know, you're not really good at anything. So I think we'd rather be. This is, it's innovative stuff we're doing. I'd rather do it right, and I'd rather make sure that I'm delivering on the mobile service with nines and delivering what I promised I'm going to give people. And it just makes life easier.
Yeah.
Um,
You're not in the business of you're in the phone business, right? Just like the utility providers, they're in the utility business. Sometimes you don't want to get too 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 outside your comfort zone or what you're intended to do. Do well what you do
yeah, because
well. I've always felt.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the whole token thing we talk about in ICO, and I know a lot about it. I mean, a lot of those early guys were right out of Chicago, and a lot of them got some headaches in their hands, and still have some headaches in their hands for that whole dynamic. So, there's a little bit of greed factor over there with the ICO stuff too. You got to be careful of that too. So, you just gotta, like I said, we're in the telecom business. That's what we do, and we just want to be the best that we can be, and at that, and I'm trying to have fun. Spend a lot of work. We're probably working 18-hour days for about the last 6 months. I work 7 days a week. It's like, what do you do for 7 days a week? Well, there's a whole big long list,
Yeah,
and
I think what you're doing is a big deal, honestly, because like you said, you've accepted. You've said to yourself, I'm not the ICO. Yeah, could you go do that? Could maybe that be an income revenue? It's not something that you probably see as it's not long term sustainable, right? You're more, let's use this as a tool. And that's what I'm hoping we get to in crypto in general is people start to look at these worldwide payment networks, these decentralized systems where it's agnostic to me. I'm using it as a backbone to do something else in my business. And so there's value to you that comes from beyond just I'm playing the value of a token or I'm trying to pump a token price. This provides my business with a tool that I have difficulty doing otherwise. You paying out every person into their own bank account around the country would be an enormous undertaking. But you can just say,
right,
hey, just drop me your address and I can do, and it'll go anywhere you
totally,
want. You can send it to your kids in
totally.
college. And like, I don't, I don't care where it goes. You get to choose. That's something you can't do
Now
conventionally.
that's interesting. That's a topic, right? When you think about the traditional banking, something as simple as exactly what you just said. If I wanted to give you your reward back in fiat currency, I mean, it would be painful. So, but to do it with the way we've engineered this, we can efficiently and cost effectively and transparently deliver the reward to the wallet, and that's exciting because now we're
Mm-hmm.
able to, again, we can get people in the game, or we're just going to give you free crypto for doing the stuff you're already doing today.
Yeah.
Every gigabyte, we got to get you guys off your phone service and get you over Stack Mobile. Shaver, maybe we got a special shaver deal. As we start inching closer, maybe I'll you know I'll come up with something real exciting for you to to get you to jump off those old stale networks you're using.
Yeah. That's great. Do you have any questions, Ian? Well, I got others, but I feel like I'm dominating a bit too much here.
No, I'm good. I think this is
I got
great.
a handful of
Yes.
questions.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. Well, you alluded to this earlier with your comment about Elon Musk and I guess Starlink. But where do you see the industry evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, and how do you? I guess you're already lining yourself up to be part of that, right? I'm just curious as to any insights you can provide.
I think you're gonna see. Well, fellas, I know quite a bit about the regulatory environment in the telecom industry, and a lot of it depends on who's in the White House. Believe it or not, FCC.
Absolutely. Right.
So I could tell you that, like in that example of Musk, I mean, depending on who's in the White House, that's either going to really skate through or it's going to turn into a boxing match. That's just my personal opinion. So, but I think if we just allow, one of the things that Musk said recently, and I really appreciated it, is that we need less government regulation. I mean, like you go back to like Ronald Reagan and deregulating the airlines. You guys don't know this, you're younger, but airlines were painful and expensive. Long distance phone service. It was like 45 cents a minute to call from Columbus, Ohio to San Francisco. I mean, it's just goofy. And then so the Bell system broke down, and then that ultimately led us to competition, and then ultimately broadband.
Right.
So I think that in the wireless industry, I know that like Dish Network bought a bunch of spectrum up, but they've got a certain timeline. I think they're racing to get towers up and get their network up. Starlink is a really interesting one when you think about it. That it's almost like in a weird kind of way, it's decentralization of mobile data. Because when I say decentralization, right, you have all these satellites up there, they're all popping around, boom, right, and down here on Earth, you got data centers that are physically connected that aren't bouncing around. So in a weird kind of way, the Starlink almost is like a DeFi decentralization type of a strategy. But and then the electronics tend to get better. Like
Right.
I used to own fiber optic, and networks, and it was like the glass stayed the same, but the electronics kept getting better and better and better
The protocols.
exponentially.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
what you're saying about the government being, I guess, expanding. If you compare just your business model, right, where you're kind of revolutionizing telecom by getting rid of storefronts. I mean, that's something that happened naturally as technology evolved, as the stack evolved, the stack improved. How much and I mean, you probably can't tell me, but it's just like this is a rhetorical question, but imagine how much government can be shaved off uh, if we just leverage the technology that we already have. Like how many storefronts, the license bureau, how many things that people need to be staffing, right? How much waste there is given the technology that we have today is still in place, grandfathered in, um, and never cut. We're going through a recession here. Many companies are doing layoffs. No such thing, no such layoffs are happening in the government. It's always N+1. And yeah, I mean, um, the people that are now in charge of the government, the president, I want to say the Democrats, they're making it hard for crypto businesses. They don't want to
Totally. They
be
hate it.
hurting, and I
They
guess
hate it.
a lot of that is they have they have bills to pay too, and they can't cut, so they need to keep pleasing their sponsors, right? But yeah, I
I
have
think
another. Yeah,
well,
go ahead.
let me throw more piece on that just to think about. Whenever there's when you see like some consternation or some sort of a impasse in anything, big businesses, or regulatory, there's typically, if you peel the onion back a little bit, like people talk about net neutrality and they think net neutrality is good. I mean, at the end of the day, the fact is that the big carriers like AT&T and Verizon, now I'm not talking mobile, I'm talking wireline now, and Comcast, they do not want, they want to be able to regulate the packets on their network, which means that if you don't use Comcast for service, they're going to slow down your Netflix.
Mhm.
And if you're not going to use Comcast for your voice over IP phone service and you're using Ring Central, they're going to slow down those packets. That's why the scary thing about it is these big companies have so much money and they have so many lobbyists and they're so good at it that they basically can slow everything down. And that's what's happened in the crypto space. When you start really digging around the corners and peeling back the onion, there's companies that are disrupted, or potentially can be disrupted. And then the big incumbents start throwing their weight around and their big bucks and their lobbyists. And it just creates like what happened to the gentleman you were talking about, that got debanked. That's what that's all about. It's really,
Yeah.
it's really kind of sad because a lot of
Feels
people are just confused.
unconstitutional. Yeah.
Yeah, people are confused too. People get confused. I mean, crypto is still confusing to a lot of people. I try to explain that. I was talking to an older neighbor of mine yesterday, and he shake his head like he understood what I was talking about. And I'm like, no, here, you gotta watch this. Here, I'm gonna send this to you. Here, I'm gonna send this video to you. Oh, okay, I'll do that. All right. You got it's like you got to keep evangelizing, explaining to people. And I think that gets back to that point about why we were using Litecoin. Is I'd rather provide a reward of something that's real, that's dependable,
Yeah.
reliable, as opposed to trying to get cute and I don't know, just kind of makes it easier. There's enough going on without trying to recreate the wheel at this point in time.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was saying to you earlier when about kind of incorporating crypto, and one of the things I thought, like I said, when Animal and I were in Nashville, I started thinking I wanted to get back into this, and I'm like, what's a good angle? What's something different? And after talking to you, I was thinking, yeah, businesses is interesting, and the reason I think it's interesting is because a lot of people don't understand crypto, and so for them to understand why you would use crypto beyond just like maybe a marketing reason or whatever, and understand, okay, wow, the payouts they can do differently, right? Maybe that that hits something with them. They go, oh, okay, now I kind of understand the value of having this kind of agnostic, decentralized ledger that I can access 24/7 to anybody in the world. What door does that open up for my business? Right. Or maybe it's not your business. We talk to another business owner. Oh, I didn't realize I could track the payments. I didn't realize the value of having
No,
like a
totally.
transparent ledger, right? So I'm hoping that over time it doesn't translate to people, because all that's been talked about has been, where's the price going to go? Is it going to, it's been this huge speculative thing, and no one's actually talking about the utility that these things provide. And
Right.
that's what I'm hoping we're turning over to hear someone like you say, I don't want to do it
Yeah.
with my own token. I'd rather just
Right.
run a business. That's what I hope we get to in the next 5 to 10 years here.
So
It's
that's interesting.
evolving, right?
Hey guys, that's interesting, right? So the you meet so many interesting people when you go to those events, right? And it's like you gotta like it's so tempting, right, to get pulled into the oscillations of value and the greed of I'm gonna get the next Bitcoin. But really, if you take a step back and just look at, I think what Johnny Kim, I think was the guy that said at the event. I thought it was pretty interesting. He made me laugh. He says, you got to look at it as like it's 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 like a permanent fixture in your life, right? You can't get obsessed with the oscillations and value of it. But there's an interesting document. I'll email it to you guys after, on blockchain technologies per state, and it was put together by Ari Wu, the woman I spoke earlier of, and I thought it was really
Yeah.
fascinating. And it talks about the blockchain technologies per state and the investment money that went into it and what they are. Like, for example, Nashville is the biggest reciprocate of investment around blockchain technologies for healthcare, which makes sense, right? It's a big healthcare state. And
Mm-hmm.
then Miami's a huge one. Obviously, now Miami's big financial. So when you take a step back, I think that might be an interesting exercise for you to kind of look at that. I think you'll enjoy this document. I requested it from her. She sent it to me, and I'll share it with you. That it kind of just opens your mind up that you're right. Crypto has gotten everyone's interest, especially with Bitcoin being over $1 trillion in value. But the blockchain technologies and where they're going to change our life and how we do business are huge. Web 3.0,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, inventory management systems and like logistics of, someone like FedEx. I mean, they have their own internal systems. That's the difficult part. It's like sometimes you want things to be private, but what are the things that maybe companies can offload managing certain pieces of data or information that they don't want to have to deal with anymore? That they can just use the blockchain as a permanent record that they get to access whenever they want. I mean, I'm not saying that I know what that is. I know there's somebody out there that, um, it's almost like this drive chain conversation. Can they have their own network that pings in or imprints a hash somewhere on the blockchain to flash like a state of things? Maybe it's balances or paychecks or payroll, something like that as well. So these are, I mean, again, I'm not a technical guy. That's that's all beyond me, but I know that there's some value there, and I'm waiting to see businesses unlock it. And so that's why I think it's cool what you're doing.
It's happening fast, right? Animal, what else? You had a couple more questions. Sorry about that. I got in a tangent.
Yeah, I got a technical question and then a more business, evolution question. So technical one thing that crypto people are really concerned about is security and privacy. And a lot of hacks have been happening in the past, and a lot of them have had to do with SIM swapping, right? An attacker using some social engineering, calling, Rogers or whatever, and pretending to be the person, and having them transfer the SIM to them, right? And then using that ability, I guess, to receive SMS messages to get into their accounts, their Twitter accounts or Coinbase accounts with 2FA, right? Um, how does Stacks, I guess, forward facing their front end help prevent that, right? I know that you guys, well, I don't know, but I'm assuming that you're going to have everything done through the front end website, maybe even through email or Facebook Messenger or something. Like you're not going to have people answering the phones, calling, for
Yeah.
example.
So just to be clear on the SIM swapping, right? Or like SIM hijacking, right? It's a form of identity theft. The attackers can gather like personal information. They contact the carrier, posing as the legitimate owner. I don't know if you fellows heard about the young kid. He was a high school kid, and he got into a wealthy New York financier's phone, and he stole like $30 or $50 million worth of Bitcoin. He
Okay.
contacted the carrier and was able to get access to the phone. So he was like, the kid was bought a Ferrari in high school. It's like, you think something's wrong. Like, hey, Junior, why is Junior driving the $400,000 car in the driveway?
IRS is going to pick up on that, eh?
Do you remember that? Yeah, it's a crazy story. That's kind of an example of this. So a couple of ways that, just for the audience, right? People, they receive SMS and two-factor authentication codes, and they reset the passwords in the phone. In this example, the person being frauded, loses access to their phone and whatever's on there. So, so I think, as your question, what are we going to do to prevent that, or how are we going to?
Well, so when there's a switchover, so let's say I sign up to Stack, what's the process? Do I have to go to a T-Mobile store? Do you send me? I think that's what people say. Do you send me a SIM card, and that's what I think
By
he's
mail,
wondering. Is there's a bit of a trust factor there that you're sending me a SIM card?
Well, there are a couple of things that happen. We do SIM and eSIM, right? So
Okay.
eSIM is where we would activate the eSIM on the phone when place, right. So from a standpoint of the onboarding process, where it's a new device or a new SIM, the account would be activated. If it was already an active account, the order would be created for the SIM, and then the SIM would be identified in the system at that point in time. It would be sent through our fulfillment center. And that group's out of LA for now. And then when the consumer gets the SIM, at that point in time, then we have a secure validation process to ultimately activate the SIM. I think you've got to be careful of, just in general. That's I think the hardcore crypto community people have a separate phone just for their crypto that they use for their trading or their accounts. But fraudsters and cyber thieves are creative, and we're just gonna have to keep an eye on it and be careful, because that what we just walked through. I don't know if that really answers the question, but it's certainly,
I
So
mean,
there's an engagement with the company. I get my SIM card, I call a 1-800 number or something, and so that way I know it's not somebody calling me, or I know I'm reaching and talking to the right people to get that set up.
or to be all web
Correct.
based. Is that like you need to sign into like a web interface? You go to your account and then
True,
you can
yeah.
manage your plans and your add-ons or whatever through it, your rewards, all through that one interface, right? And I guess the security of that interface, your login has a lot to do with how people so if people lose their password, is there like a 2FA?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about it. Yeah. So the you got to think about it this way: as it's like if you have any other carrier, right? You have an account, and that's how you manage the everything from paying your bill to monitoring your invoicing is correct, or even
User
adding a
profile,
phone
yeah.
or a new right. Yeah. So two-factor authentication, absolutely. And I think education is important too. To always try to keep the consumers educated of where they can be potentially frauded. But that's a really good point. And I think that we're gonna have the best. Our platform's out of Sweden, so these guys are about 10 years ahead of us. So they're from you look at America, the USA, mobility experience, and you look at northern Europe and that and so forth, and they're just like way ahead of us. So when it comes to security and data privacy and all that kind of fun stuff, they just seem to be more evolved than we are, and that
Right.
there could be several reasons for that. The big oligopolies here in this country,
More
they
competition.
they wanted to keep it like no one's gonna upset the apple cart, right?
Mm-hmm.
They
Until
want to keep everyone
T-Mobile,
dumb, their consumers paying at the nose, yeah.
yeah, like T-Mobile was really the one to kind of break the mold there when they came in and they said, hey, we're going to start. You remember the Virgin phone, Richard Branson. He was the
Vaguely,
first
yeah.
big MVNO, yeah, with T-Mobile, and so that was sort of like because let's be honest, it's kind of like an oligopoly. It's pretty much what
Yeah,
it
the
is.
first outside
Oh, yeah.
competition. Right.
Well, that's the thing, that it's a utility. It's almost like with the social media companies. Like, at what point do they become the town hall, and should they be like? It should just be a blank platform. So there's two different views, and I think what's interesting, what Elon's done is similar on both fronts, where he's maybe not in a perfect way, but the conversations being presented of what right do I have to build what I want to build? How much regulation should be on these quote unquote utilities? How much control should small businesses have? How much regulation from the government? And so, it's interesting to hear what you're saying about Starlink, because I do find that to be, it's out like in international waters, right? Essentially, they're in
Right,
space. So, like, how do you
right.
stop this? And that's good. Just like Bitcoin and Litecoin, they're these international I guess they don't have a living space, so
The funny part
you can't
about
pin
this,
them down, right?
what's funny about that Starlink thing? I just like, you want to pull your hair out, but it's like there was already talk, like the big carriers, AT&T and Verizon, saying like it's going to hurt competition. It's like, no, it's not going to hurt competition. It's going to bring more consumer choices and more features and more functionality. But it's like you could sit there, you get two big monopolists in a room, and they're just going to look at you and they're not going to smile, and they're saying, no, 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 it's going to hurt competition. It's this, but at the end of the day, you just got to shake your head and say,
Yeah.
That's
Or they
not
try to
really
fool.
true.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't want to
Yeah.
compete. Are you ridiculous? Don't be ridiculous.
I mean, yeah.
Well, maybe Space
It's
Force wasn't such a coincidence then, huh? Maybe Trump creating Space Force has more to do with Stopping free
I
flow
find
of
it
information
interesting.
and anything else.
Yeah, I find it is interesting though how, when you look at this stuff in innovation, and I mean at the end of the day, I think typically big government doesn't really do anything right. Typically they just they just slow things down and infringe on innovation and so forth. And I think that's been proven. That's just my opinion, but
Oh
so the
yeah.
bigger the government gets, the less we get innovation.
Yeah.
Because the
That's
big
for sure.
companies start figuring out how to keep themselves in power. If they can keep themselves in power, they can keep the status quo. Why rock the apple cart when the margins are fat? Why let innovation happen?
John, you sound like you belong in our Wednesday spaces we do, because this is exactly what. And I could sit here and go down a road, but I don't want to take too much of your time. So
I've enjoyed the time with you guys. You
yeah,
guys have any other
if you
questions
want to
for
come
me?
in,
I've
if
got
you
one
want
more
oh yeah,
question.
go
Okay.
ahead. I'm sorry.
If you have a moment. So right now you guys are US only, September, October. Do you have plans for maybe Canada or Europe in the future?
We do. So here's this. Okay, so we've already had discussions about this. So we have acquired technology that we can expand to 60 countries, and Canada being one of them. So Northern Europe seems logical. I know there's been quite a bit of interest from Canada. I thought what I thought was interesting is Canada is the second, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. Canada is the second largest in Litecoin transactions.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We've
from
got a
BitPay,
big
you mean?
Litecoin with BitPay,
From the
but I
Bit
know like
Yeah.
even back in the day when there was Bitcoin, well, mining Bitcoin miners, there's a lot of them in Canada. Ever since the beginning, it was, I believe, China, then US, then Canada for a while, mining the most Bitcoin. This is like back before 2017. I'm not sure what that looks like now. I know for sure Canada, we do have a lot of renewable energy and affordable energy. We have some of the lowest, cost per kilowatt hour, thanks to hydroelectricity. So yeah, like there's a lot of incentive for miners and mining to happen here, and as a result, a lot of home gamers got into it, right? And a lot of people are holding crypto, a disproportionate amount, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. There's a friend of mine who's got a tenant up in the west of the U.S. and it's a coal-fired electric utility. And so with the utilities, right? If you do not allow competition in your domain as a power company, then you must sell your excess capacity at tariff rates, so you don't make as much money, right? But if you open it up to competition, then you can sell your excess capacity at market rates. So it's kind of like there's different debates on which one it makes more sense for the company. But these guys have the coal power plant, and they've got a huge Bitcoin mining operation because they are using their excess capacity instead of selling it, right, which has to be sold at, I think, at the tariff rates. They're like, why would we do that? Let's just pump it over here to this big data center and let's keep pumping out cryptocurrency. That's just sort of that's one of the ways that can be done. But I'm sure there's all kinds of energy being sapped in ways that maybe we don't even know about. They're just keeping their mouth quiet about it. I don't know.
Well, they're probably
Globally.
doing some Litecoin mining too, Litecoin and Doge. But
Totally.
well, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Good.
So check it out, guys. Go to stackmobile.com. It's just like what it sounds like, stackmobile.com. I just signed up. It takes about literally 10 seconds, and then they'll I'm assuming in whatever, a month or two when you guys are launched, you're gonna have send out an email. And
yeah, you'll get a communication. We send out regular communication on that early bird list. So yeah, get excited. $25 in free Litecoin from John T. Shave, and get on the Stack Mobile train and get fired up. Earn free crypto. Get great service.
All right. Thanks, John.
Hey, I appreciate the time, guys. Hey, nice seeing you guys again.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise.
If you want me to be involved in